Good afternoon, students.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. All of you, please switch on your videos. So here we are discussing about the motions of an object in 1 dimension, 2 dimension and 3 dimension. Once again, we can see the definition for motion in 3 dimension. After that, we can move to the seminar session. So the 3-dimensional motion of an object, if a particle moving in 3-dimensional space, or if the particle is moving along a space, we can consider the motion of an object in 3 dimension. If the object is moving in a space or it is moving through a space, we can consider it as a 3-dimensional motion. So can you guess how many axes is needed for the specifying the location of an object if it is undergoes a 3-dimensional motion? Yes. Three axes is needed. What are the 3 axes? It can be X, Y, Z. The 3 axes are needed for describing the location or position of an object if it is moving under the space. If it is moving along a space, or if it is possess a 3-dimensional motion, here we need 3 axes to locate the position of an object. For example, the motion of an aeroplane. Okay, it is moving through a sky. It is a 3-dimensional space. The 3 axes is needed to locate the exact position of an aeroplane. Okay, so once again, can you recall all the 3 types of motions? Devika, Girish. Devika,
Yes,
Girish.
ma'am. Motion
Okay.
in 1 dimension.
Okay.
Here, the object moves along a straight line, and
Yes.
in this motion, only one of the 3 rectangular coordinates are needed to tell the correct position of the object.
Very good.
Motion in 2 dimension. Here, the particle moves along a plane.
Okay,
and
it's enough, dear. It's enough. Thank you. Then Aman, how many axes are needed to describe the motion of an object under 2 dimension?
2 axes.
2 axes. Then Aman, can you describe what you mean by 3-dimensional motion? 3-dimensional.
It is a motion occurring in space.
Okay, very good. It is the motion that is occurring in space. Good. Then G. Joseph, how many axes are required to specify the motion of an object in a 3-dimensional space? G. Joseph. How many axes are required to specify the location of an object if it is moving in a 3-dimensional space? Only 1 axis is needed to represent the motion of an object if it is moving along a space. Agna, what about your answer? How many axes are required to specify the location of an object if an object is moving along a space? 3 axes are needed, X, Y and Z. All the 3 axes are required to specify the motion of an object along a or that is occurring in a space. I request all of you to mute. Okay, so here I will give you some examples. Can you identify the type of motion in each case? It is either 1 dimension, 2 dimension or 3 dimension. The first one is an object falling freely under gravity close to earth, an insect crawling over the floor of a room, flying of a kite on a windy day, motion of a train along a straight railway track, a bird flying in the sky, random motion of a gas molecule, motion of a coin on a carom board, a planet revolving around its star. Identify the type of motion in each case. Tominston, can you identify the first type of motion? An object falling freely under gravity close to earth.
1 dimensional.
Yes, it's not clear. Can you say it much more louder?
1 dimensional.
An object falling freely under the gravity close to earth. It's example for 1 dimension. Very good. A freely falling body. A freely falling body is an example for 1 dimension motion. Good. It is one-dimensional motion. Okay. The second one, the second question to Pooja. An insect crawling over the floor of a room.
Two
Can you?
dimension.
Yes, because it is a planar surface. The floor of a room, it is a planar or plane surface. So here we need two axes to specify the motion or the location of an object. So it is undergoes two-dimensional motion. The next one to Tushar, flying of a kite on a windy day.
It's three-dimensional.
Yes, it is three-dimensional motion. All right. The next question to Mehrin, motion of a train along a straight railway track.
One dimensional.
Yes, good. It is one-dimensional motion. Next to Sarah, a bird flying in the sky. A bird flying in the sky.
Is it two-dimensional?
Is it two-dimensional? A bird flying in the sky. Yes. Here the motion is occurs in space. Okay. So we can say it is three-dimensional motion. Here the three axes is required to specify the motion of the bird. A bird flying not only by the x-axis or y-axis, we cannot specify the exact position of the bird. For that, the third axis is also requires because of its wings, the movement of wings. It is not only in x and y axis. One more axis is required to specify the location of the bird. So it is a three-dimensional motion. The next one, random motion of a gas molecule. We know that the air is a mixture of gas molecule, air molecules or water molecules. So here we are consider the random motion of a gas molecule. Identify the type of motion possessed by the gas molecule. Who is here? Nimita, any idea? Random motion. Yes, it is one dimensional. Our gas molecule is moving only along one direction. You just imagine the gas molecules, the water vapors or molecules present in air. We know that in gaseous state, the molecules are in random motion. They are very free. They are independent to each other. Okay, they are very free. So what about the motion possessed by the gas molecule? Anyone? It is three-dimensional. It is three-dimensional motion. The random motion of gas molecule is again examples for three-dimension. We cannot say an exact direction for the motion of a gas molecule. It is not in rest. There are the molecules not present in or the particles present in solid state. Here we are consider the random motion of gas molecules. They are completely restless. We cannot predict an exact axis through x or y or through x and z. It is in random motion. So we can explain it in terms of three-dimensional motion. The next one, motion of a coin on a carom board. Gaya, motion of a coin on a carom board. Yes, it is two-dimensional because the carom board is a plane surface and the motion of the coin through that carom board is represent the two-dimensional motion. The next one, a planet revolving around its star. A planet revolving around its star. Actually, it is a confusing term. Can you identify the motion? Anyone?
Three-dimensional.
Sometimes we have a tendency to write it is a three-dimensional because it is occurs in space. But actually, that is what is the point that I want to clear here. All the three-dimensional motions are not what we can say, or all the spatial motions are not three-dimensional in nature. Okay, all the spatial motions are not three-dimensional motion. For example, here the planet is revolving around the star. Here the planet is revolving around its star. It takes place in a certain selected circular path. It is a fixed path. Since it is a fixed path, the motion possessed by the object is two-dimensional. Okay. If the path of the object is fixed, then it is two-dimensional motion. So that is the point that I want to clear here. all the spatial motions are not three-dimensional in nature. Okay, all the spatial motions are not three-dimensional in nature. If the motion is occurs through a fixed path, then it is represent two-dimensional motion, not the three. So even though it is a spatial motion, we know that the planets are revolving around its own star. It takes place in space, right? But it takes place through a fixed path, through a fixed circular path. So we can say it is a two-dimensional motion. So you must keep this point in your mind. All the spatial motions are not three-dimensional in nature. If the motion occurs through a fixed path, then the motion will be two-dimensional in nature. All the spatial motions are not three-dimensional in nature. So that's all about our one-dimensional, two-dimensional, and three-dimensional motion. So a planet revolving around its star, even though it occurs around occurs in space, since it occurs in a fixed path, since the planet is revolving around its star in a fixed path, we can consider it as two-dimensional, not as three-dimensional. Okay, so that is the conclusion that we are made from here. All the spatial motions are not three-dimensional motions. Some exceptional cases are there. That is, if the planets or if the things that are coming under the motion through a fixed path, it comes under the two-dimensional motion. I hope it is clear, right?
Ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am.
Yes?
Ma'am, can I show the slide with three-dimensional motion?
Okay, all right. In the three-dimensional, okay. Yes. Motion in three dimension. A particle moving in usual three-dimensional space has three-dimensional motion. But some exceptional case is there. We cannot say all the spatial motions are three-dimensional in nature, especially if the particles are moving through a fixed path. It is not coming under the three-dimensional case. It is coming under the two-dimensional motion.
Okay, ma'am, thank you.
Okay. So that's all about the motions, that is motion of the object under one dimension, two dimension, and three dimension. So now I invite Aditya Dev to present the topic based on physical quantities. Okay, are you ready?
No.
Okay. So now you can start.
Good afternoon to all. Today I am here to take the seminar on the topic physical quantities. I mean uniform measurements from chapter uniform measurement. So we have to discuss what are fundamental quantities, derived quantities, fundamental units, and derived units. Physical quantity. Quantities which we can measure. We will be able to measure these quantities under some conditions. So in physical quantities, we have fundamental quantities and derived quantities. And from this, we have fundamental units and derived units. Next one is fundamental quantity. Basic quantities. These are the basic quantities in the physical quantities. We cannot convert them into much smaller units because they are the the first units which we start to complicate. Example: length, mass, temperature, time, amount of substance, luminous intensity, and electric current. The next one is derived quantities. They derive from fundamental quantities. So as we said, fundamental quantities are the base quantities. We derive this to form derived quantities. Example here is force, which is mass into acceleration. Here, in this quantity, acceleration is derived from velocity by time, and velocity is derived from distance by time. Fundamental units. Units associated with fundamental quantities. These are the fundamental units. Length, which is meter, mass, kg, kilogram, time, seconds, temperature, Kelvin, amount of substance, mole, luminous intensity, candela, and electric current, ampere. Derived units associated with derived quantities. So we get this from the derived quantities which we derived earlier. Example: force, mass into acceleration, force, which is kg, meter per second square, and area, length into breadth, which is meter square. Volume, lbh, which will be m cube. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Aditya Dev, it's a nice presentation. Now, students, if you have any doubt, you can ask and clarify it with Aditya Dev. Regarding with the derived quantities or base quantities, if you have any doubt, you can ask. I think no doubt. Then Aditya Dev, ask question to your friends. Any 2 or 3 questions.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, only.
I think he is prepared for some kind of hard questions. Right?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
John.
Which John? John Jose or John Philip?
Yeah,
Both are alert.
The John Philip.
Okay.
Unit for luminous intensity.
Candela.
That's right.
Okay, then.
Niranjan. Niranjan is the unit for electric current.
Ampere.
That's correct.
One more question.
Sahis. Sahis.
Yes.
Sahis Faisal.
Fahid Faisal. Fahis. I request all others to mute. Okay, you can ask.
Tara. Unit for amount of substance.
Mole.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Is it over?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
I have one more question to you, Aditya Dev. Along with the 7 base quantities or fundamental quantities, we have 2 more extra quantities are there. What is that?
Supplementary and
2 supplementary units are there. What's that?
radian and steradian.
Radian and steradian. Why you didn't mention that about the supplementary units here? What is the unit of radian? Radian is the unit of which quantity? Yes. Radian is used to measure?
It is used to measure the distance between 2 points. That is steradian.
No, it is used to measure the distance between any two points and all.
Angle.
Angle, what about steradian?
Angle between two points.
It is used to measure the solid angle. And what about radian and steradian? Radian and steradian are the two supplementary units. So whenever we are discussing about the units, you must study about the supplementary units. We have 7 fundamental units are there corresponding to the fundamental units. Fundamental units are the basic units. We cannot convert them into simpler forms. So these basic quantities can be measured with the help of 7 units are there. In addition with the 7 units, we have 2 supplementary units are there. One is radian and other is steradian. Okay. So I hope this topic is clear, right? Okay. And I will send the notes of this first chapter as far as possible. It may be today itself or tomorrow. Okay. Of the second chapter, the notes of the second chapter. So let us continue with the lesson. And who is next? Okay. So let us continue with the lesson. Now we are going to move to the motion along a straight line. So before entering into the next topic, I want to discuss again about the physical quantities. So the physical quantities again classified into 2. So depending upon sometimes you may be studied in your lower classes. Depending upon the magnitude and the direction, we can classify the physical quantities again into 2. What are they?
Vector quantities and
Yes, very good. Vector quantities and
Scalar quantity.
scalar quantities. So depending upon whether they possess the magnitude and direction, the physical quantity can be classified into 2. They are scalar quantities and vector quantities. We know that physical quantities are those quantities that can be measured are called a physical quantity. And this physical quantity undergo the further classification. One is scalar. Then what do you mean by scalar quantities?
Only magnitude.
Yes, scalar quantities are the physical quantities which have only magnitude. For example, if I want to measure the temperature, already we are covered in the first chapter, which device is used to measure the temperature? Which device is used to measure the temperature? Yes, it's right. Unmute and say. Thermometer, right? Thermometer is used to measure the temperature of a person or temperature of a human body. Okay. And how the value is indicated after measuring the temperature, how we can indicate the temperature of a body? It is expressed in ampere or seconds. How we measure the temperature in degrees Celsius. We represent the temperature of a human body in degrees Celsius. Sometimes it is 30 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Celsius and all. And thus we represent it is in 30 degrees Celsius towards north or 30 degrees Celsius towards east. Is it possible? No. So here the quantity that has only the magnitude. So such type of quantities are called scalar quantities. That is the quantities that having only the magnitude and not direction. Sorry, no directions are called scalar quantities. So let us see the difference between scalar quantities and vector quantities. So a scalar quantity is a physical quantity that has only magnitude. So physical quantities are again classified into 2. It is not included in your textbook, but we need this definition or we need an idea about the scalar quantity and vector quantity for our further discussions. That is why I am introducing here the scalar and the vector. So scalar quantity is a physical quantity that has only magnitude. There will be no direction for the scalar quantity. And examples for scalar quantities are mass. We can represent the mass only in terms of kilogram. That is the SI unit of mass. It is expressed in terms of kilogram. 2 kilogram, 3 kilogram. We cannot say it is 2 kilogram towards north or 2 kilogram towards east and west. So here we cannot specify the direction. So mass comes under the category of scalar quantity. Similarly, length. Length is also expressed in terms of magnitude. Time, we are measure the time in terms of seconds. It has only magnitude. By the term magnitude, we mean that a numerical value along with its physical unit or its unit, SI unit. So that is what is meant by magnitude. A numerical value along with its respective SI unit is known as magnitude. Similarly, temperature. We can measure the temperature in terms of degrees Celsius or in terms of Kelvin. Okay. We cannot represent it in terms of degrees Celsius, to, 70 degrees Celsius or 30 degrees Celsius towards east or west. Here the direction cannot be specified. So it is a scalar. Similarly, volume and density, all are scalar quantities. So scalar quantities are the physical quantities that has only magnitude and there will be no direction. So can you say the definition for vector quantities? What can be our vector quantity then?
Both magnitude and direction.
Very good. So vector quantities are those quantities that have both magnitude and direction. So a vector is a physical quantity that has both magnitude and direction are called vector quantity. For example, the position of an object. We can locate the exact position of an object. It is 30 centimeter away from north or away from east or west. We can specify the direction. Similarly, the displacement, velocity, acceleration, momentum, and force all are examples for vector quantity. Here in all these cases, we can specify the direction and magnitude. So a physical quantity that has both magnitude and direction are called vector quantity. So this is the difference between scalar quantities and vector quantities. Scalar quantities that have only the magnitude, but vector quantities are the physical quantity that has both magnitude and direction. So that's all about the introductory portion of this chapter, motion in a straight line. So we are starting with the definition of motion. Motion is the change in position of an object with respect to time. There are different types of motions are there, like straight line motion, circular motion, periodic motion, oscillatory motion, and vibratory motion. But in this chapter, we are only discuss one type of motion. What's that?
Rectilinear motion.
Rectilinear motion. Okay, I like that answer. What do you mean by rectilinear motion then? What is rectilinear motion?
Motion of objects along a straight line.
Very good. Motion of an object along a straight line. That is the title of the chapter, motion in a straight line or the rectilinear motion. That is what we are going to discuss here. Okay. So, according with or regarding with this term rectilinear motion, we have to study some terms like distance, displacement, velocity, speed, and acceleration. That is we are going to discuss. So the next one is known as, so here you have a definition for rectilinear motion. You already get an idea about rectilinear motion. The motion of an object along a straight line is known as rectilinear motion. Example, the motion of a cyclist or cycle along a straight road. It is an example for the rectilinear motion. Now we are going to introduce the terms associated with the rectilinear motion of an object or the straight line motion of an object. So the first two terms associated with the rectilinear motion of an object are called distance and displacement. Distance and displacement. So here you can see, yes.
Can you show the last slide?
Yes, of course. This one.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So here you can see the definition for the rectilinear motion of an object. That is the motion of an object along a straight line. The motion of an object along a straight line is known as rectilinear motion. The motion of an object along a straight line is known as rectilinear motion. Example, motion of a cyclist along a straight road. Is it over? Okay. Now, the terms associated with the rectilinear motion of an object. The terms associated with rectilinear motion of an object. The first term associated with this rectilinear motion are distance and displacement. So here you can see an image. So this is our school. So at 4 o'clock, a student leaves his school and this is his home. Okay. So when he leaves the school, he moves through this way, and here a shop is here, a shop. It is about 2 kilometers away from the school. Again, he are moving through this distance, and here his uncle's home is there. He's a mischievous boy. That's why he moved through this way. Okay. Moving 2 kilometers and reached this shop. After buying something from that shop, he moved to his uncle's home. It is 1 kilometer away from that shop. Again, he returns to his home. It is about 2 kilometers. Okay. So, what is the total path covered by this student on the first day? When he leaves the school, first he moved through this 2 kilometers and reached the shop, buy something from there. Then he moved to his uncle's home, that is 1 kilometer away from the shop. Then he returns to his own home, that is 2 kilometers away from the shop. Okay. So what is the total path covered by the object?
5 kilometers.
Yes, it is 5 kilometers. That is from school to shop, it is 2 kilometers. Plus from shop to uncle's home, it is 1 kilometer. Then from uncle's home to his own home, it is again 2 kilometers. So the total path covered by the object is known as distance. Here the total path covered by this student is equal to 5 kilometers. So this 5 kilometers is known as the distance covered by the object. Okay. So here he have 2 ways to reach his home. On the first day, whenever he leaves the school, he choose this way to reach his home. So the total path covered by the object is 5 kilometers. On the second day, the same student, he is not choose this path, choose the shortest path, and then directly reaches to his home. That is only about 2 kilometers away from the school. Okay. So the shortest distance, which distance is shorter? Is this 2 kilometers that he chosen on the second day or on the first day? Which distance is shorter?
Second.
The distance that he are chosen in the second day. Here in both cases, the initial point and the final point are same. What is the initial point here? In both days, the initial point and final point are same. What is the initial point?
School.
School, and the final point is home. Okay, here in both days, the initial point and the final point is same. But in the first case, or in the first day, he travels this much distance. So that is, he traveled to shop, then to uncle's home. After that, he reaches to home on the first day. So the total path covered by the object is 5 kilometers. And the second day, he choose the shortest distance to reach his home. So the shortest distance between the initial point and final point is known as displacement. So this is the difference between distance and displacement. In physics, normally all the students have a tendency to consider this distance and displacement are equal, but they are not equal terms. Distance means here we need to consider all the distance that is covered by the object, or all the path covered by the object. But in displacement, we are only bothered about the initial point and the final point. The shortest distance between the initial point and the final point is known as displacement. Okay, so that is the difference between distance and displacement. So let us see the definition for distance. The distance is also known as path length. The total path length covered by an object while in motion is called path length, or it is also known as distance. The total path length covered by the object. The total path length covered by an object. So whenever we are calculating the distance, we need to calculate or we need to consider the entire path covered by the object. The total path length covered by an object while in motion is called path length. The path length is also known as distance. Both are same. Path length or distance. Now, what is the SI unit of distance? We have already discussed. It is meter. It is meter. And what is the dimension of distance? Shreya, what is the dimension of distance? I think her network is not stable. Then the same question to Fahis. What is the dimension of distance? Dimension. Meryl. What is the dimension of distance? What is distance? Distance is total path length. The total path length covered by the object is known as distance. Then can you guess the dimension of distance? Anyone? L, because it is nothing, students. Distance is the total path length. So what is the dimension of length? It is L. Okay. So whenever you study a physical quantity, you must mention the SI unit and that of the dimension along with that. Okay. The total path length on which a particle move is called distance, or the total path length covered by the object is called distance. And the SI unit of distance is meter. The dimension of distance is L, capital letter L, put it inside a square bracket. Because the distance is nothing, it is the total path length. The dimension of length is L. So here the dimension of distance is L. And it is a scalar quantity. Distance is a scalar quantity. Why it is called a scalar quantity, Lakshmi? Why the distance is called a scalar quantity? Yes.
Only magnitude.
Yes, because it has only magnitude. There will be no direction for distance. We cannot specify the exact direction. So it has only magnitude. That is why we can call it as scalar quantity. Distance is a scalar quantity. Now we can move to the displacement. What is displacement? The shortest distance between initial point to final point is called displacement. The shortest distance between initial point to final point is called displacement. So in the previous example, we already see that the total path length covered by the object is 5 kilometers. But in the second day, the same student is choose a shortcut. In our simpler terms, we can say it as shortcut. He chooses a shortcut to reach his home. That is only 2 kilometers. So it is the shortest distance between the initial point and the final point is called the displacement. And the SI unit of displacement is meter. It is expressed in meter. And the dimension of displacement is again length, because it is nothing, it is the shortest distance. And what is distance? Distance is the path length or the length. So distance and the displacement are indicate the length of an object or length covered by the object. So the dimension is L, and it is a vector quantity because it has both the magnitude and the direction. We can specify the direction of a displacement of an object. So in questions, if it is given as 20 meter and 20 meter towards north. So you can easily identify which quantity is specified in the question. If it is only mentioned as 20 meter, this 20 meter is indicates distance. Okay, this 20 meter is indicates distance. But in the question, if it is specified 20 meter towards north, then it is indicates displacement of the object. So in that way, we can identify the distance and the displacement. Okay. Displacement is a vector quantity because it has both magnitude and direction. So this is the difference between distance and displacement. The shortest distance between initial point to final point is called a displacement. Its SI unit is meter, dimension is L, and it is a vector quantity. Now let us see some other difference or comparison between this distance and the displacement. The first one is same. Distance, it is the actual path or the total path length covered by the object is known as distance. And what is displacement? It is the shortest distance between initial position and the final position of an object in a given direction. It is in a given direction. So that here the distance is a scalar quantity, but in the case of displacement, it is the shortest distance between initial point and the final point in a given direction. So here the direction is specified, so displacement is a vector quantity. Here the displacement is a vector quantity. And the distance covered can never be negative. It is always positive or zero. The distance covered by the object can be positive or zero, but it is never negative. The distance covered by the object is never negative. It is always either positive or zero. So it can accommodate the two values. It can be either positive or zero. But in the case of displacement, it can be either positive, negative, or zero. The displacement can attain the positive, negative, or zero values. We can discuss the negative, positive, and zero values of displacement in our next class. It's the time. And here, the fourth difference, the distance between two given points may be same or different for different path chosen. But the displacement between the 2 points are always the same. So we will discuss about these last two points in our next class. We can discuss how the displacement of an object becomes positive, negative, or zero. We can discuss with the help of some examples. So that's all about the distance and the displacement. So distance is the total path length covered by the object. Its SI unit is meter and dimension is L. Then about displacement, it is the shortcut or the shortest distance between initial point and the final point. Its SI unit is meter and dimension is L. Or in similar terms, we can say the displacement is a distance with a definite direction. Displacement is nothing, it is the distance with a direction, but it is the shortest distance, the shortcut that we are chosen for our motion. That is what is known as displacement. Okay. Now let me take